can go straight forward into the study session, and then we will come back to the city commission meeting in case there's anything there. The first item is alley lighting requests. Do you want to, is BPU going to be here at a later time? I don't see them in.
Told him, actually, I told him 9:30 is when we scheduled to do that, so we've just zoomed
Okay,
through.
let's go ahead and start with Public Works and
Okay.
give BPU an opportunity to show up.
Jeff.
As we discussed several months ago, we have a community sewer in the 400 block of East Elizabeth. The property at 404 East Elizabeth is virtually without sewer service. To expedite the process, I'm asking to hire Stevens Contractors to construct the new sewer, replace the needed sidewalks and driveways in-house. To construct the new sewer along Elizabeth, one tree has to be removed. I received a quote from Walton's Tree Service in the amount of $1,135. This is a tree that has to be removed to complete the work, so I'd like to bring that next week.
Okay.
And then on the actual community sewer itself, we have a quote from Stevens Contractors for $19,020, of which $1,600 of that would be to hook up, just to expedite the process, 404 East Elizabeth. And then she's unable to pay the total amount up front. And so we have in the past signed a promissory note and allowed to make monthly payments. She's able to pay $100 out of each paycheck twice a month if approved.
Well, I guess the fact that we've offered that to other residents, if they were unable to pay, I would say that we bring it next week and approve it and get with her and make sure she understands.
Okay.
Okay?
Next, again, out of the wastewater treatment facility, we need to fix one protruding tap. We have another community sewer on Earl Street. We cannot TV a section of sewer line due to two separate protruding taps. We received a quote to remove the PVC tap in the amount of $1,350 from Mayor Specialty Services LLC. They go inside the sewer line with a knife and they actually can cut that down. Now, we don't know at this point if we can remove the second tap, but we're going to try while they're here because it would require another mobilization otherwise. So that would likely cost an additional $900. The first one is a quote, the second one is an estimate. So
Okay.
I'd like to proceed with that.
Yep. Bring it.
The next, again, out of the wastewater treatment facility, with the installation of the new ultraviolet disinfectant system, the existing software has to be upgraded. We received a quote from Integrated Controls Incorporated to program the new UV disinfectant units into the wastewater treatment facility SCADA system and from Integrated Controls Olathe, Kansas. The quote was for $2,962 for Rockwell Studio 5000 Lite programming software and $3,642 for programming services. Total cost of the quote, $6,604.
Okay. You might give a little, while you're on that, you might give a little update on the new equipment that's been installed.
Well, they have the first of the two disinfectant units installed, and they want to program it in. It seems to be working pretty well. They had pulled samples for the E. coli and have not, the last I heard, had not received the results back from that, but appears to be working well. They want to integrate this into the SCADA software before they disassemble and put in the second unit. So everything's going as planned on that.
Okay, thank you.
And the last item, we received a call for projects from Jenny Kramer, KDOT's bicycle and pedestrian coordinator, regarding the fiscal year 22-23 transportation alternative program. We received funds from this program for both phase 1 and phase 2 of the Avenue A Centennial Drive 10-foot sidewalk and the Northview 10-foot sidewalk currently under design. This program also provided a grant for the Safe Routes to School project that's, well, it's actually completed. Construction on that was completed last fall. Alfred Benish and Company is willing to put together the application at no cost for securing the design work if the city is awarded now what would be a 5th TA grant. So my question is, do we want to apply for a 22-23 TA grant, and if so, where would you like to go with the next project?
What kind of time frame do we have to make that decision?
I think the applications are due in about 60 days.
Okay. Well, I think we'd give it a little bit of thought and come back and talk about where we might want one, or if we even want one, and so on. Does that sound feasible?
Yep.
I think we need to talk about it just a little bit.
And whether we have the money to do it.
Yeah, and where's the funds coming from?
Well, of course, that's all gonna depend on the size and scope of the project. So if
Right.
you want, we can put together an estimate if we know what we'd like to pursue next.
Okay. Well, I think we need
So
to come up with some
the
ideas.
options, as I see them, and there may be others as well, but would be to continue another stretch in Northview, or we could go back down to Avenue A and put in the final length along Avenue A from Centennial back to where it goes south. We have an estimate on that, and that was about $1 million, so.
Okay.
And I guess we've been turned down once on that, so I would lean towards Northview, finishing it, going east of Main Street again. I assume that's what you were talking about.
Or we could fill in a gap, I mean, whatever
Yeah,
you guys
let's-
think.
I'd say in 2 weeks, let's come back with some ideas.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Put it back on study session for 2 weeks.
Okay. You have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a small sidewalk that I have noticed that could maybe fall into that, is the sidewalk between Euclid and, there's no sidewalk between Euclid and Kansas, where the playground is there, and there's no handicap ramp that goes to Lakeside Park. And then going over to the museum, there's no, like we live there and I watch people, they walk in the street right there, and it's right in the main corridor downtown. It might be a simple, small one. Just throw that out there.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that would fit the
And it might
TA
not
thing,
fit
but
it,
it is a sidewalk consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
the TA grant's only for 10-foot wide sidewalks.
A good weekend. It's right, a lot of people walk on it.
Yeah, okay.
I think we need to, when you do that, also need to have an analysis of where we're at financially,
Yeah.
Right,
because
that's what we said.
Make sure you, Joetta, maybe you can come up with some numbers at that time as well.
Yeah,
Okay?
Depending on what fund.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
okay, we'll move to administration.
I have emailed Tim, and he should be hopefully on his way here soon. I haven't got a response back from him yet, but first thing I want to talk to you about, back on March 9th, the City Commission passed Charter Ordinance number 45, allowing the city designated city website as the official publication for the purposes of publishing ordinances, requiring public hearing notices, planning and zoning notices, mandatory financial reporting publications, and other required legal notices. In a typical year, in 2019, we spent nearly $40,000 in publications. So this will be a significant cost savings, but it won't be without effort, and it won't be without a strong effort to make sure we're transparent in everything that we do. Charter ordinance did have a 60-day protest period whereby any valid petitions could be filed as a referendum and require a vote of the citizens to do. And so that 60 days did pass here recently, and as a result, the charter ordinance goes into effect, is essentially in effect. But the for the change to become official, we have to pass a simple ordinance which will authorize the website to be officially designated. We wanted to show the commission today some of our efforts that we put into place to ensure that transparency is a part of this transition to move from the Sentinel, which is our current official newspaper, to the city website. And I'm gonna turn it over to Sydney, who's we've worked with hand in hand to kind of put some of this together to ensure that information that we normally have in the newspaper will also be available through a number of means. And so I'll kind of turn it over to you, and you can talk a little bit about that.
So I'm kind of just going to go through this step by step how we're going to release the information. So right now this is what our homepage looks like. So we went ahead and put all of the ordinances and bid postings, zoning appeal hearings, anything that has come out in 2020 is currently on our homepage and our website, just to kind of give an overview. Now, granted, it probably will not be this full as we go on, because we'll have the articles come off the website after however many days it needs to be published, 45 days, 60 days, whatever we need to do. That way it doesn't jumble our homepage. But all of the records are going to be in our archive center, and these are public. So anybody who searches through the archive center on the website, once it loads, and theirs won't look like this. This is the back end. We'll have access to all the 2020 ordinances, the public hearings, press releases, and we are going to start putting job postings on there as well when they're released, when they're filled, things like that, so people can have a record of that. Bid postings, basically anything that we would put out is going to be in this archive center, so anyone can find it. So we'll just look up the ordinances real quick. So here's all the ordinances and the affidavits, and so if you just go into one, like this is just the affidavit and it's attached here. There it is. So there is an uploaded file. So again, this is the back end. It will not look like this on the homepage. So anyone can go and actually look at that file, and then once it is uploaded to the archive center, it will go out into our news flashes. So this has the capability to, people can sign up, either email or text, whether they want to get these notifications. So as soon as they get pushed out, they can be notified. So instead of just going to the homepage and them being there, they get that instant, this is happening right now. So like on one of them, just do, like if they want to know the latest zoning appeals hearing. It's thinking really hard. So this is what it'll look like when we put it out. So we'll put a small lead in so they know what's going on. It'll have a title. And this is our expiration date. Right now we just did everything out 60 days, so it's out there. And then we'll put the description, and then we'll also attach the original document, which will lead them to the archive center, so that is out there. And then when it goes out, it'll give them a link to follow, and it'll bring them to this page. So this what it'll look like to the public when they look up the information. So it'll give the notice and then also give them the full document, so they're able to see this. Any questions so far? I'm going pretty fast.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Good.
We'll also, so with the sending out notifications via email, text, we've also created a Facebook group Is it okay if I line first? So this is a, group that is.
Featured Bo the Jayhawk Mama. Now we want a Wildcat have equal time.
They'll use shorter words.
Yeah.
What is my email, guys? Well, that may be something that I have to show you later on. Yep, okay, I don't remember my password. But anyway, so there is a Facebook group out there. Story of my life, can't remember my password. There is a Facebook out there that is linked to the City of McPherson page that will also, people can sign up for, and as soon as something is posted, they'll also get notified via Facebook. And there'll be a link to the website that they can pull up the full document.
And that's a sub-account of
Yeah,
our
it's
current
a
Facebook site.
subgroup of our current page, so that way, anybody can find it if they go to our page. We thought about, just creating a whole new page, but all of us are admins on a lot of other pages already. And plus, our page already has a good chunk of followers, and we're getting more followers every day, so we thought we'd try that route first. And if it's not getting the message out like we want, then we'll create a new page.
Good.
Okay.
The other option that's out there, and I've talked with the McPherson Buzz, and that's another option if we so choose, for $100 a month. They will electronically put all of our required notices out online. So it costs us about $1,200. It's just another way to assure that there's some more additional transparency by putting it out somewhere else, which is significantly less than where we would be hit if we were having to put it out in print publication. It's absolutely not required, but if we wanted to try that and see how that works, we absolutely could do that. There is also, if you see attached, there's a affidavit of publication. When we turn things over to the county or to a number of other places, we need to have a sworn affidavit. We do that right now with our official publications, and Jeff Houston's put together an affidavit that we can complete in-house and have available for whenever we send out that as well. So I think we've tried to cover enough things to try to make this available to the typical person that wants to hear about any of the hearing notices or anything else out there. But we're open to anything else that the commission might potentially want to look at doing. We've tried to make it pretty easy, pretty broad ranging as far as the opportunities go. So it's really up to you guys where you want to go from there. But we want to wait to pass the resolution until after we've kind of have clear direction from you where you guys want to go, if you're okay with this, the way we've set it up.
From my standpoint, I'm okay with it. I would like to consider McPherson Buzz as an additional outlet for our information, but I think we have to finish up our budget and where we're at to finish this year before we designate that. But I think a second source outside of us would be good, and this is a very economical second source.
So
Yes,
we'd
along
start
with that,
that.
I'd like to see what the following is on what we're, on the proposal that was made here, see what it looks like, and if there's enough, information, fine. If there's not, why, people request more, why, then we can talk about it again, but we need to make sure we can financially support that.
The one thing that she didn't go into much detail at, but on the very front homepage, we're going to take one of those buttons, the job posting, and they'll actually be, it'll say online official publication. So when you click onto that, you'll actually go to a landing page that will tell you how to do all this stuff.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll probably promote it on our social media to say, hey, if you're interested in getting official publications, go to this link. And it'll be very clear for anybody that comes onto the page that they can see that. So
Okay.
I think that's critical to make it as open for people to see. That's kind of what the landing page looks like.
Okay, so we'll bring this to, do we have to do anything next
Well,
week? It's
well,
just
if
information.
you guys are okay with this, we'll bring the resolution to make
Yeah,
it official.
That's good. Let's
Yes.
bring the resolution, then we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sydney. Okay, I'd like to, from here, go back to item number 1, alley lighting request, since now we have everybody here. And I'll call on Tim Meyer to explain what we've been doing, and then I'll call on Citizen to tell us what's the matter with what we're doing.
Good morning. Now, in the past, and this probably goes back a long ways, we've had what we call multiplier circuits for streetlights, and so they're lighting circuits that really aren't economical to meter. With the series streetlight circuits, those actually ran about 2,000 volts. So to meter those, you had to put in a primary meter setting. So what the utility would do is we would go add up the demand. A 100-watt light bulb is a demand of 0.1. And then there was a location where we actually had a time clock set on a photo. And so when the photo would turn on, the time clock would start. And so we would take the demand, multiply it times the hours, and then we would bill kilowatt hours off of that. It's not the most accurate way to do it, and that's why today we've converted all the circuits to an actual meter, because there are also 120 240 volt circuits or 480 volt circuits, which are easy to meter. So we got rid of the time clock issue. We only had 2 time clock circuits left, probably in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. It's been a while. Lakeside Park, South Maple, South Walnut. We got both of those converted to what we call a parallel circuit, 120 volt, 240 volt circuit. But on one of those circuits, we also had some kind of specialty type lights that for whatever reason were installed throughout the city. There were 14 of them. And so we just added those to the multiplier. If it was a standalone light, it was easier just to put them on the multiplier. And so that's what we did. So when we got rid of those circuits that we had multipliers on, we kind of needed to clean this up. And so Lenny went through, I think with Justin, looked at all the different locations. How many are left?
3 total.
So there's a total of 3 left. We had 14 what we would call kind of unique lights, and we just put those on a light rental agreement. It's easy for us to keep track of, to bill them. We can put them on another bill, on a city bill, and so that's the reason it kind of happened. We actually haven't been billing them since 2018, so it's just something just trying to clean up. So that's.
Boy, I am overwhelmed with your kindness. You didn't bill us
Yeah.
since 18.
Well, we're working on a, now that you.
I like the old system.
But anyway, and that's, I don't know if you have any specific.
Of these 14 or whatever, I think you've said this before, but a number of those were city parking lots and other things. And so now we have some LED lights, but we're metering, but it may not be as much usage either.
Right, and so I think since there's so few, if we just put them on a light rental agreement, put it on a city account, is for both of us, it's probably the most economical. The way that works is for a set fee, we provide the energy and we have to do all the maintenance. So if something happens to the light, BPU just fixes it and that's part of it. If the bulb goes out, it doesn't get charged to the streetlight circuit. Just kind of, we have Elm Court. I don't know which ones are left. Elm Court's definitely left. That's actually a street. We didn't have an easy way to get power to that, so the simplest way was essentially to run underground back to the alley, back to the back lot. And I think there are a couple downtown. So
Yeah,
YMCA parking lot.
yeah. I think maybe the public parking lot behind American Legion may be on that too.
That's correct.
Yes.
Meter that one.
Yeah. Okay.
So those are the ones that are left.
Okay,
Okay, good.
all right, thank you for the update on what's happening. Do you want to make a comment on the lighting situation?
Well, I guess I noticed our light in our alley is gone, and that's kind of what brought this up. So I guess my concern would be which lights got taken out in those types of situations, like business situations or alley light situations, or those, like, I kind of like to have an alley light. I got kids that work for me at the Snow Cone Shack, and it's security. And I know the police department is big on lighting up at night, and I think it's a good thing. And I printed this off for you guys, and that's how many businesses would use that alley light where we're at. So where were the other ones that were removed? Because I'm maybe not the only one that lost a light, I'm guessing.
So there was some in the, let's see, the 200
That's what he's trying to do here, I guess.
Main.
200 Blacko North Main,
Yeah, so behind Neighbors Cafe down there.
behind Neighbors,
Yeah, there was 2 lights down that alley.
2 lights, okay.
There was a third one a block further down that just, the owner took over a light contract behind the apartment complex.
Right.
So it was essentially like.
That's the old hospital, I call it.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Where the hospital was? Okay.
He took the contract over on that. And Shelley and Neighbors took the contract over on the one behind her place because it essentially was lighting her customer, not her employee parking there. And then across Main Street, there's a parking lot there. Now it's a donut shop. They're on the corner, the block with the Sentinel, the old Sentinel was on that block. There was 2 down that alley. Both of them were removed. They were just lighting up the alley. I think originally they were there because the people came to work early for the Sentinel and somebody requested a light, so that was good. Those 2 were removed. Everything else, the one behind in your alley was removed, because essentially it was lighting up right behind where you're parking, since they're on your business.
And I just want to make it sure it's clear that Hops, we have about 15 security lights, we have about 20 cameras, and we have a security system with panic buttons. So that said, security is important to me, and we're not paying our fair share on security at our place. I just feel like the city needs to make sure that our businesses are all secured, as well as those other facilities that they took out lights in the alleys. I think alley lights are super important to me. That's my opinion. But I didn't notice it until this spring, so I don't know anymore when they came out, but I noticed it. Yeah, I probably noticed about when it came out. I thought maybe I didn't notice it because I don't go down there a lot in the evening unless the kids are working. And when the kids started working, I noticed the light was gone because we were going out there and it was pretty dark.
Okay.
So I guess I would like to see it replaced.
All the other lighting was either metered,
Sure.
or had already been metered besides those, or a contract was given over.
And we have a streetlight meter, I think, on the next pole over
For a streetlight circuit, correct?
for a streetlight circuit, so it wouldn't be a big meter issue.
That circuit's actually a 480 volt circuit, so we can't put a streetlight on that circuit that we currently use for alley lighting.
Okay.
Our lights are 1.2.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Where, you said you mentioned the light on 200 North Block, where was that one at?
200 north block, so, I'll get through my list here.
That was the person you mentioned.
200 north block. We had, let's see here. So the alley on the west side of Main,
Okay.
we metered those streetlights that were in the city parking lot there. That was that block. There was nothing moved, in the 100 block either side of Main. Everything started in the 200 block, so nothing on the east side of Main Street.
So nobody took over the light on the 200 North Block that was lighting the parking area? The one you just mentioned?
Which light are you speaking of?
The one on the 200 North Block that you said, that's the parking area, the city parking area.
That was
Yeah.
in the south. That was South Main. I'm sorry, I might have misspoke there.
Okay.
The South Main.
Okay, so there were none on the 200 North Block that you were,
Not that we removed.
okay, okay.
And I know it's kind of a dumb thing, just a light, but it's maybe 10 cents, 5 cents a day, but it's serves a big purpose if you have an accident or something, so.
What is that fee to meter it?
If it's unmetered and it's 100 watt, it's $7.50 a month, and that's full maintenance on the light.
The other thing is that we do provide some protection on our police routing. Call on Todd to talk about that.
And I'd love to talk about that too, because I went back on our camera footage because we have not had a cop drive down our street, down our alley for 2 weeks, unless they can prove differently. I could not find it on any clips.
Okay.
So our garage door was left open one night and nobody caught it until the next morning, until I came in. And that was our fault that the garage door left open, but it was surprising to me that nobody
Okay.
saw a garage door open. It could be
Todd?
because there was no light.
Yeah, Todd? Yeah, they couldn't see it was open, so we're safe.
It could be, but then don't know exactly what garage is talking about. I mean, it could be some that you don't know if it stays open all the time. You know, we got, approximately, 13 square miles that we gotta cover with, just so many officers. And they try to go down as many streets as they possibly can. We do the best that we can with the number of people we've got. Like I said, we got 13 square miles, plus we gotta take care of any calls that come in, that kind of limits sometimes how we get to, check businesses, put that on third shift. I mean, that is one of our big priorities is, building checks, going around and checking, making sure that doors are closed and going into the doors and stuff like that. But I'll look into that, but
And they do a phenomenal job, and they're really good about parking across the street and watching over my kids. We've never had an issue. I just want to make sure we don't have an issue.
Yeah.
He said
Well-
that the contract in the alley, of Hops is $7.50 a month.
You have our own light up there, yes.
To take that over. Okay.
I'll let her rental that.
I'll take it over. My building's right there too.
And that's what other owners do, that all makes it sure.
I just don't want to have to take it over someday. I just don't want any more tax. So, as long as,
Okay, Michael said he'll take care of it through Makerspace.
Yep.
So if you want to work with Michael, we can put whatever different metering we need on that pole. Okay? All right, thank you for coming in and resolving. Thank you, Michael, for volunteering to do that. Okay, can I go back now to 3.2, Pitney Bowes postage meter lease agreement.
not as criticism, but just let people know if they're
Every 5 years, we have to renew our Pitney Bowes lease agreement for our mailage postage meter. Pitney Bowes let us know that the current machine that we have naturally is out of service and no longer able to be put back onto a service contract. So they sent us a new contract for the next 6 months and the new machine. The lease payment went up $9.92 a month. So if you're okay with that, we'll bring it next week and get the new postage meter in here.
Yeah,
So,
anybody have a problem? Okay,
Bring it.
okay, Nick on DBG, CV guidance.
Last week, we were kind of waiting on a response back from the Department of Commerce on some guidance on duplication of funds. If a particular business has already received some of the funds as they relate to the CARES Act funding, and we finally heard back from them, and between last week and this week, I've tried to put together, if you look in that attachment, a set of guidelines for how we will potentially distribute funds as it relates to the coronavirus funds the city received of $132,000. We do know that $7,500 of that will be paid to the administrator, and the remaining portion would be made available for businesses. I've kind of laid out the guidelines here of how of what it can be used for, and you kind of see the list of all of the things that it can be used for: working capital such as wages, utility, rent, etc. Paying off existing debt is not allowed according to the grant guidelines. Other expenses such as sanitizing equipment, hand sanitizing stations, and other necessary things to protect patrons and employees are allowed. However, personal protective equipment is not eligible, is not considered an eligible expense. So, like masks and things of that nature would not be covered, but some of the other things in there could be. Also, purchase of 60 days worth of inventory to reopen. 60 days was at the beginning of the day. The business was allowed to reopen if closed. And so, and then the other thing that's not included is paying off existing debt prior to the pandemic. So if you had, for example, a revolving loan fund or something that you owed, that will not be allowed to be used. So I kind of went and put this together to include what's the criteria for both the different levels of grants. The micro grants are basically for businesses 1 to 5 in size. I've kind of put out what the requirements are. 51% of your employees have to meet the 80% of the median income here in McPherson County. And I've kind of listed those numbers, what they are. For individuals that might want to apply for that. I kind of went over the requirements and who's allowed to apply for those particular for that particular grant, and then I go into the economic development grants, which are the ones for individuals that are businesses that are from 6 to 50 employees. And I went over their guidelines as well. So we talked a little bit about method of releasing funds. We want to do it in a clear and equitable way, as I mentioned before. So what we would do is we would, once these are ultimately approved, we'd set a date when the applications would be put out. We've been working with the grant administrator to help fine-tune the application to make sure we have all the information we need as it relates to that. We'd like to have a review committee that's made up of not just city staff, but also business leaders, and particularly from leadership from the chamber, leadership from Main Street, and potentially MIDC representation to actually review each of those applications for eligibility and to make sure that they've covered everything that they need to in the grant. We will say that we expect the grant, all sections of the grant to be completed. And so what they would do is we'd sit down and review. We'd take these applications in the order that they're received. So when they come into our office, we date and timestamp every application, and that's the order we would review them in. If it's determined they're eligible, they'd be awarded. We'll continue to award funds until the funds are expended. And if one particular applicant isn't eligible, we move to the next. We move to the next until there's funds available. All the funds are depleted. What we are recommending, what we talked about is doing up to $10,000, and it has to be shown with receipts for the micro grants, which are the businesses 1 to 5 in number, and for those businesses 6 to 50, we'd allow up to $15,000 that would be granted. And that is below what the Department of Commerce has done, but when we received notice that we only received the $132,000, not the $300,000 we asked for, we immediately said, let's look at how we can affect the most amount of businesses. So that would be the recommendation we're looking to do. The big question that we received, and I sent out a notice because and the mayor and Richard Miller sat in with me in a Q&A session, and it looked as if they weren't going to allow anything for businesses that received the PPP, the EIDL loans through the CARES Act. And what I did finally get a clarification this last week. We're kind of waiting for the state to hear back from the federal group that it meets with each state to determine eligibility for all of the CDBG loans, and they finally heard from them last week. They were disappointed with some of the answers, but I think I got a fairly clear answer that individuals that do have taken PPP or EIDL can be eligible, but they cannot reuse, if they received, for example, funds for PPP for an 8-week period to cover their employees, they cannot receive those funds again for that purpose, because these are federal funds. But as an example that I've placed in here, they could receive funds for utilities for that 8-week period. And so they are allowed to go ahead and apply, but if they've already received funds and they designated that through their PPP or EIDL, you cannot reuse those. So what we'll ask in each application is, if you did receive those, you need to be very clear up front what you actually use those funds for. So that's a good notice, because after we attended that meeting nearly 2 weeks ago, it was our understanding that anybody that received any of those PPP, EIDL, or some of these other funds would not be eligible. So now we've gone back full circle, and they are eligible, just not to ask for those funds again. So we'll put that out. We want to put that out clear. This is a preliminary draft for you guys to look at and give me any guidance. So if you have it. The other thing that I will mention is that we do want to give the $10,000 and the $15,000 out, but if I don't have enough applicants to apply, what we'd like to do is be able to go back and give additional amounts to each of the applicants that applied. If say we only have 8 applicants, I'd like to go back to the start of those that turn those in that are eligible and award additional funds. My guess is, just based upon the number that applied, that we won't have extra funds. We'll probably use all the funds that are out there based upon this. But I wanted to put together this grant plan, and the application's still a work in progress. If the concept of this works, I'd encourage anybody that has any further guidance, but what I'd like to do is, once we've got the application done, we'd like to go ahead and make it official that the application will be released at a certain time and date, and as we receive those after it's released, we won't give it to anybody early. It'll be available to everybody at the same time. We'll take those in as they're turned in. So this kind of lays out some of the plan of how we'll distribute that if it's acceptable. If there's any other guidance that the commission wants to give, we're absolutely open to that, and we'll incorporate whatever the governing body sees as potentially needing to be added to that.
What I'd like to do as guidance is, if you have anything, please look at it by midweek and get it to Nick on any changes, and hopefully the application would be ready this week, and next Monday we can approve the distribution plan and the application. So we will try to work with you this week to get all that done.
And then I would imagine we'd set it at a date. I want to give enough time to notify everybody. We'll put it out on our social media. We'll put it out through the chamber, through Main Street, through MIDC, and try to get the word out. It'll actually be located at a place on the website, and then we'll also have hard copies here at City Hall for anybody that would prefer to do that. So that's kind of what we do.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try to get you stuff by end of Wednesday,
Okay.
if we have anything. Okay, do we have anything else in study session?
Yeah. Capital improvement program. Do you want to
Right,
review
right.
that?
Okay. I'm looking at, while she's coming up there, at Shayla Shea talking about needing information on baseball tournaments and somebody to contact for disinfecting and, okay. No, I just wanted to be sure that we're doing that. She didn't put anything out new on cases so far, but,
I know USA softball, we have a list and we have signs that we put
Okay.
display.
okay, all right, go ahead,
Good morning, Commissioners.
yeah.
During the spring retreat 2020, I presented a draft capital improvement program. From that discussion, the Commission requested to expand the program from a 2-year scope to a 5-year scope. Since that time, the department heads have developed and presented their 5-year capital improvement needs during the 2020 budget process. We used those 5-year capital needs, which is attached in the outline program, to develop a comprehensive list. This provides an introduction and definition and the financing mechanisms to the capital improvement program. Please note that the capital improvement program is a long-term guide for maintaining and improving the city of McPherson. It should, however, be recognized that while this document is adopted as official capital improvement program, final decisions on the funding of individual project and purchases rests with the city commission. Costs contained in this program are estimates only. All the financial resources recommended by the capital improvement program may change. In addition to the current fiscal policies of the city may not remain the same. Consequently, it's important for all involved with the capital improvements to keep in mind the possible effects of policy change on the total capital improvement program. This only relates to the availability of funding. Any shifts in the funding level will have an impact on the adopted program and may postpone capital projects. This is being presented for your review as an adoption of a capital improvement program by the commission is required per the recent charter ordinance number 46 adopted and published in the McPherson Sentinel, which exempts the city of McPherson from provisions KSA 14-570 and KSA 14-571 and providing the substitute and additional provisions on the same subject relating to public improvements and the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying for improvements. The protest period ended on June 11th with no objections. Therefore, next week, bond council will provide a project authorization resolution for the commission to adopt. This will allow for the refinancing of a KDH loan with general obligation bonds if the savings is acceptable to the commission and our debt policy. The refinancing proposal for the GO bond series 141 of 2020 will be reviewed next Monday with a presentation by David Arterberry of Stiefel Nicholas. So what I've attached was the same capital improvement program that was presented, as I indicated, back at the spring retreat. The only revisions was from a 2-year scope to a 5-year scope. And as I mentioned in depth, that this is only a program or a plan. It does not adopt any of the actual projects or funds any of those projects without presentation and approval by the commission. And what's also attached is the exact same thing that you have seen during the department head presentations of their CIP program or needs during the 2020 budget process as they presented those to you in May. So it's just a comprehensive, nice color-coded list of everything that has been presented. Doesn't necessarily mean it's approved for funding or for purchase, but it's a program.
Okay, anybody have a problem bringing it next week? And I would remind you that one of the requests to get this done, and thankful that Janetta, Richard, and others, department heads worked on this, is a slight criticism in our bond rating is that we didn't have a 5-year plan to show all this, although we could show in pieces that we had all that. So what the work that they have done, and we're thankful for that, is to pull all that together into one program, show what we are looking to do or what we could do and what our estimated costs, and that will probably require an annual update from time to time and roll another year in and another year off, and if we don't get something done, then we'll have to add it to another year.
Yeah.
So this will hopefully help us in the bond rating scheme, but that will come up here shortly, as Janetta has indicated, and this will be a little bit more of a tough year because of the coronavirus and financial figures not looking great in the marketplaces and in the investment income, so we will have to do all we can to convince them that we're still a solid community financially. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, and the mayor is spot on. It's exactly that. It's a tool, and it's gonna need, annual updates as we move forward with stuff that, didn't get financed, needs to roll forward, and then another year, added on. So it's definitely always a working document, but it is at least a solid document where we have one comprehensive list of all of our capital needs.
Yeah.
So thanks to all the department heads too for all their work on this.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Sue.
I've sent it out to them
Okay.
for their final review, so
Okay.
what may come next week may look just a little bit
Yeah.
different after
Yeah.
they've reviewed
We're looking
it.
at a concept. Okay. Solicitor peddler's license.
Shaylee Shea, McPherson County Health Director, we would ask them, because we've started to get some requests from solicitors, peddlers, to come into the community and do the door-to-door sales. We've asked for an opinion from Shaylee Shea that about when it is safe to start considering allowing those permits once again, and the recommendation we received from her is that we wait till a total phase out. As many of you are aware, extended from the 22nd of June to the 29th as a recommendation. What she suggested at that time was that we wait till that time and then we reevaluate whether that's a concern. Some of the concerns that she brought up was that we don't, especially if these door-to-door salesmen are coming from outside the area, contact tracing or knowing where they've been, who they've been in contact with will be close to impossible to do. And for that reason, it's her recommendation to go in slowly back into allowing these solicitor permits, and it would be our recommendation back into regular session and consider a motion to delay issuance until it's determined to be safe by the McPherson County Health Director to go ahead and start issuing these licenses again.
Okay.
We have a lot of summer tournaments coming up, and you're working on the baseball part, and part of that's going to be important to have tracking. And this is 3.6. I did attend whatever that is, MAYB championship Sunday afternoon at Andover, Farha Center. Not really, I didn't see anybody collecting any names, although we have all the team players, and we can assume that their parents or somebody were there, but there were other people there. They had to bring their own chairs. I was lazy, I didn't want to bring my own chair, so I stood to watch one game. That's all I wanted to see anyhow. So, and hand sanitizer was a gallon deal, unsupervised. If you push the thing, you got about 4 ounces of hand sanitizer, whether you want it or not. You get enough to take a bath in it. But I hope that, do we have hand sanitizer at the ball fields, and or is the person that is running the tournament, or is
The individual running the tournament is one that should provide all of that.
The MRC, I can tell you.
Do they?
MRC is the ones that do the maintenance and maintain the sports complexes in town, so.
so does MRC have any hygiene and social distancing? We did social distancing about as much as possible, but how do you have even just family for the athlete maintain social distancing, it's an impossibility, but we were strung out more than bleachers. I don't know. We're using the bleachers for baseball.
They're using the baseball. I noticed this weekend at Wall Park that they were using the bleachers. In all the tournaments, the softball tournaments that I've seen in Wichita and baseball tournaments, there's no social distancing.
And I didn't see any face masks.